We're here today with Adrienne Roach. She's a partner at Keating, Muthien and Kleekamp, specializing in the area of family law. One of the areas that we want to talk about is the mistakes, but also the positives, the things that people can do to make their process more successful. If you would shed a little bit of light, maybe we can learn from the mistakes people make and then switch to what the positives are, what they can do to make their process a little bit better.
Absolutely. I have noticed that there are very common mistakes that people make in this process. The first is that they typically rush into the divorce process without thinking of their other options. Today, we're very lucky that there are many other options available to divorcing couples. You have mediation, a collaborative practice option, more traditional dissolution negotiation, and of course divorce litigation. Litigation, in my opinion, should be saved for very extreme cases. The litigation process is much more time consuming, much more expensive, and definitely more emotionally draining. Let's face it, terminating your marriage is a draining emotional process for everyone, so why not minimize the pain and suffering that you're going to go through?
Right.
Speaking of the pain and suffering people go through, a lot of people also try to hire the pit bull lawyer. That's a term I hear a lot. And their goal is to basically punish the other spouse. Ohio law is pretty simple when you get down to it, when you're dividing property. There's no place for punishment. Marital assets are simply divided 50-50. So you aren't going to get anywhere by trying to punish your spouse. The pit bull lawyer, the concept of using hardball tactics in negotiation really doesn't do anything but increase your fees and drag out the time it takes to get it done. People also make the mistake of using their lawyers improperly. They use their lawyers as financial experts. They use their lawyers as therapists. Lawyers are not therapists. We are not certified financial planners, but our hourly rates are more. So if you need financial advice, if you need emotional support, and most everyone going through a divorce does need those things, you should turn to the experts. You should get the advice you need from the people who are trained to do that. Good. Again, overall, that's going to keep your costs down, that's going to move the process along, and that's going to really set you up to be a good teammate for your lawyer, which is important. I also see people relying heavily on their friends and family. Oh, yes. And sometimes those people influence decisions. Now, your friends and family love you, they want to support you, they mean well, but typically they're fueling the fire. They might not even know it because they don't know the law and they don't understand the dynamics of the particular situation. Absolutely. Always between the husband and wife. So it's good to have a support system, but you should keep the decision making at the table with the professionals and with your spouse. Finally, people assume that a collaborative process is cheap, quick, and easy. It isn't. It's less expensive than litigation. I would say maybe half the cost of litigation. Right. It's certainly it's quicker than litigation because you're working at your timetable and with your schedules versus the courts. So divorces can drag on for a year, year and a half, 2 years. A collaborative process doesn't have to take that long. It's certainly not easy. Right. A lot of people think they can't do the collaborative process unless they get along. Well, I've got news for you. You're getting divorced generally because you don't get along. It's a process. It doesn't mean that you're going to get up at the end of every meeting and hug each other. It's actually harder work. Litigating is you can kind of pass the buck. You know, you prepare for your case. You do your best, and then the judge makes the decision. And if you don't like it, you shrug your shoulders and say, "Oh well, I did my best. Now I have to live with this." So it's actually harder work for everybody involved to stay at the table and to negotiate and work out an agreement. Right. So here are my thoughts on how to increase your likelihood of a successful collaborative divorce. First of all, you have to choose your attorney wisely. This is a very special kind of attorney-client relationship. Yeah. It's different than a business transaction or any other. As a
non-lawyer, I would totally agree with that.
And so you have to be able to talk to that person. Right. You have to be able to take very direct comments and advice. Obviously, it's emotional, and emotions tend to make people think unreasonably at times.
Right.
It's completely normal. You have to be able to have the relationship with your lawyer, or your lawyer can say to you, you're being unreasonable.
Right.
If you can't have that relationship, if you can't tell them everything, they can't effectively help you. You also want to make sure you talk to someone who can explore all the options. If you talk to someone and they're just telling you about the divorce litigation option, then there's a problem, and
Right.
you should ask about other options.
Absolutely.
I also think it's extremely important to bring allied professionals into your collaborative divorce. And by that I mean neutral family relations specialists and neutral financial experts. This is often overlooked, and it can be disastrous if you leave these people out of the analysis. Divorce is not just a legal issue. There are financial, parenting, and emotional issues and decisions you're going to make that are going to impact your life for a very long time.
Absolutely.
You need to make sure you're getting the right help from the right people.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are so angry and emotional during the process, they might not communicate effectively.
Right.
So something as simple as adding a family relations specialist into the mix to help the parties and even the lawyers communicate can be imperative. I mean, success hinges on your ability to communicate, so that's important. You need to also really understand the financial implications of a divorce settlement, the tax implications, your budgets, what your needs are, and you need to think into the future and consider financial projections.
Right.
Your lawyer can't really do that for you. That's what the financial expert's for. It also keeps the cost down because some of these issues are better dealt with one-on-one with those particular experts versus two lawyers sitting in the room. So, and that really adds that really increases the likelihood of success.
Sure.
You also need to keep your priorities in check. A lot of people get stuck in the weeds. That's my phrase. That's what I call it. And a perfect example is, you're fighting over something that doesn't financially make sense. A frying pan.
Mm-hmm.
You're fighting over a frying pan that you could go to Target and pay $20 for a new one. Okay, but that's because it's emotional. It's symbolic.
Right.
A lot of times, it's the way people feel in control. The frying pan means something to them.
Right.
Not something financial, but it means control. That kind of emotional reaction doesn't get the case done. It ultimately doesn't get your big goals accomplished because people get annoyed when you're fighting over the frying pan. So instead of that, try to look past the weed path and look at your big goals. Defining your goals early will really help you stay on task.
Right.
You need to slow down. You need to be patient. Urgency takes over. People just want to get it done. I hear all the time, just get it done. Well, when you're in that mode, you're not making good decisions. You're making decisions you're going to regret. So you need to have patience that it is quicker than going to court, but it still takes time.
Right.
And the time is an investment in a good result.
Mm-hmm.
Delays also happen. It's frustrating, but you have to accept that it's part of the process. Finally, you have to be willing to compromise. In the collaborative process, we avoid positions. Instead, we focus on interests. We focus on what's important to people. It's very easy to be positional. It's human nature. I want the house. Okay, then I want the house. That's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to keep fighting over the house. It's going to end up being sold, and nobody's accomplished what's important to them. So it's better to back off of that and figure out what's underlying that position you're taking.
Right.
If you come into any process, collaborative or not, but especially in collaborative, if you come in with a mindset that is completely inflexible and you're not going to change your mind and take less than what you think you deserve, then you're probably not going to get the case done.
Right.
You cannot be forced into a settlement you don't want in this process, which is nice, but you also have to realize that neither can the other party. So for you to come up with a livable solution, you have to accept that the other person has to also have a livable solution, which means you've both compromised.
Right. Well, thank you, Adrienne.
You're
Great
welcome.
words of wisdom from experience.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.